Who are we really? Who am I? Who are you? And what are we doing here? This issue of self-identity has been thought about in a couple different ways. For one, there's been a lot of philosophers and thinkers that subscribe to the notion of bodily self-identity, right? That we are our body. This is a materialist point of view. There's also another point of view where we are our mind, we're our thoughts. It's these mental conceptions and this mental world within that is the true substance of what we see around us. There have also been people who have come to identify the self with the soul. And the soul to them is this inner divinity, a place behind our personality, a place behind our thoughts, a place behind our body, that is so deep in us that we have to seek it out. And it seems so distinct and different from us, but in a real sense, this is our true reality, this is our true self underneath all of this. To me, this concept of no self really takes the idea of a soul and this inner divinity to its fullest potential in realizing the steps and sufferings we tend to trip over on the way to reaching this inner divinity. The Buddha calls this inner state of divinity to truly abide in this unitive experience and way of being. He calls this enlightenment. Now, to give some context on the Buddha in his life and where this philosophy really stemmed from, the Buddha came from a Hindu tradition out of India, where these sages, these rishis, these seekers would go out into places like the wilderness in meditation, in stillness, and seek what they called the self. And this is what they found. They found this inner light, what they refer to as the Atman. Now, in Hindu tradition, it is believed that to search for and abide in our inner divine state, this Atman inside of our heart, is the way to moksha, to liberation, or in Buddhism, to enlightenment. Now, as Buddha went to do all these extreme ascetic practices, he realized the futility of them and the importance of the middle way, right, this middle path. What he realized in these intense meditation sessions, these intense experiences, is that everything we were experiencing is in time. And what is in time will come and pass. That is the fundamental reality of time. Now, from this notion, the Buddha found that everything is inherently empty. And this is a Buddhist term, and it's kind of denoting to the fact that it's all concept. What we think of as an enlightened state, as moksha, as the Atman in all of these traditions are purely concept, and they're in time. And what we are trying to reach, what these practices are trying to reach, is a state out of time. And the only way to reach this eternal state is to seek the eternal and not the temporal, not what's in time. It's funny, it reminds me of my brother and I going to Six Flags when we were little, riding these roller coasters. And as we were going up and up, we would chant, "What goes up must come down." And this is actually a profound Buddhist notion, right? This is what the Buddha found, that anything in time, if it goes up, it must go down. And it's about seeking that eternal state that is neither up nor down, but just is. So even going back to this experience during meditation of the Atman, of this pure self, the Buddha went against this and really pushed this, because he said that the moment that we know we are having this experience of the Atman, this experience of the true self, there is a knower and the known. We're in duality, we're in two. And this experience of the Atman is notoriously unitive, right? We find this in all spiritual practices, this state of unity, this experience of unity, of transcendence. And again, right when we are aware of our transcendence, aware of our unity, it is no longer unity, it is in two. And this is what the Buddha was really pointing towards in his teaching of emptiness. Relating to this state of emptiness, I'd like to read a quote from the Dhammapada. And in this again, we are talking about this state of emptiness, this state of pure being. So the quote goes like this: "When the mind is stilled, the appearance of change and separateness vanishes and nirvana remains. It is sunyata, emptiness, Only in that there is literally nothing there, no thing. But emptiness of process means fullness of being. Now that last line is the line that really stands out to me, that emptiness of process means fullness of being. And this is what really, again, the Buddha was pointing towards, is that what we perceive as emptiness is, in this divine state, in this unitive state, it is true fullness. But the moment we think it is fullness, again, we are not experiencing the fullness in what it could be, because we think. We're thinking, we're using our mind to experience this fullness when it is a state of being, not a state of knowledge. In Tibetan Buddhism, we can see the idea of the Dharmakaya, right, this pure Buddha mind, as the only thing that exists. And our true goal is to reach and to abide in and to unify with this Dharmakaya. Now, the Buddha really stressed this notion of no self, of Anatman, because he found that however we think we are is what we project into the universe. What we think is how we are, and in turn how everybody else is and how everything else is. There's a spiritual quote that says, "A man who wears red leather in the soles of his shoes walks the whole earth on red leather." And I think this is what the Buddha was saying when he's talking about how we think is what our world is, and especially who we think we are projects out into the world. And we can see this in our own personality, right? In our own way of life. If I think I am my body, I will pay attention to everybody else's body, and I will see them as their body. If I think I'm my personality, I will pay attention more to everybody else's personality and their neuroses, and just like I do to my own. And even going further, right, to somewhat of these spiritual notions, if I think I'm my soul, I'm going to view everybody else in their soul and as their soul. When we really and truly adhere to this concept of no self in Buddhism, then we can really take a step back and watch the sufferings and the clingings of our life fall away. And again, this is what leads us to abiding in this eternal peaceful state, outside of time, outside of these up and downs, these sufferings of life. As many other spiritual and religious paths point to this unitive state, I think it's Buddhism that really takes it to its full capacity and kind of informs us that in this unitive state there really is no clinging, and the moment we cling, we are not in the unitive state anymore, right? Because then it's us and the state instead of just the state. We dissolve into the state again, and this is it's just a point of no clinging, it's a point of no attachment. So if we can practice that in our lives, we can reach that state here and now. And it's really only in the here and now where we can reach that state. Another quote that I really like from the Dhammapada is this quote on page 96, where it says, "What is the real nature? Here the Buddha remains silent. He comes to us to point the way, to show us a path, but he steadfastly refuses to limit with words what we will find." And I really think this is a problem that a lot of other spiritual paths have, that Buddhism tries to eliminate in the forefront. That we can point you the way, but the destination is beyond all concepts and knowing and experience and attachment and clinging. Another notion that has really helped me in my practice is of the golden chain of spirituality. Basically, spiritual paths are supposed to rid you of these chains of life, of these chains of suffering. And when we practice these spiritual paths, we can sometimes develop this sense of righteousness, that we are better than everybody else, and that they're blind and they're ignorant, and that, again, we no longer suffer. And all this does is give us a golden chain now, and that's this golden chain of spirituality. This golden chain is the chain of clinging in spirituality, of attachment to spiritual things instead of material things as we were before. But again, the Buddha is pointing that this is still attachment, this is still desire, this is still clinging that ultimately needs to go. The moment that we take our concepts too seriously is the moment that we produce suffering in a much different way. Again, this is where this golden chain notion comes in. So even when we're on a spiritual path, we have to tread carefully, because we still cling. It's in our human nature to cling. It's in our human nature to have attachment. And that's why the Buddha refuses to answer all of these concepts where our thinking mind wants to grasp and we want to know more about. The most important thing is to search for this state of enlightenment, this state of moksha, this unitive state that isn't in knowledge, isn't in our mind, but is in just a state of being. See, the moment that we think we're in a unitive state, it is a state of duality. It's in a state of two. It's us and this state. We're aware of being in this state. And again, this state is not a state of duality. It's a state of unity. It's a state of one. Now, in conclusion, I have personally found Buddhism very helpful even while practicing, maybe even especially while practicing other spiritual and religious paths to go to this eternal quality. I can use these concepts, but I have to know they are just tools and they eventually need to fall away to be in this state of unity. So that's going to do it for this video. I really hope you guys had some helpful insights in my sharing of my path and what I've found for myself. So if you did like this video and find it helpful, please give it a like, a share, and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you guys very much, and until